Shana Tova, everyone. It is good to see all of your faces and your names and our community gathered here tonight on this Kol Nidre. It seems like we just saw each other. It is so good to be together, even though we are together in a way that perhaps we haven't been before. Tonight, we have the incredible gift of being able to gather together in a way that is very real, that is indicative of the times that we live in, and is a way for all of us to get a little bit closer. That act of closeness, that act of proximity, might be an act of getting closer to the people that we love in our families or in our households that we are sitting together with right now. It might be an act of getting close to all of the faces that you're seeing and the pictures that perhaps you saw of all of those wonderful JRC experiences that we have had in the past and that, God willing, we will have in person again. It is also an opportunity to get close to God, to the divine, to your own sense of spirituality, your own sense of being at one in the world and connected to everything. And Yom Kippur is about getting close to yourself. It is about doing all of the work that we need to do to clear away the parts that cloud and the parts that get in the way of really experiencing what it means to live our values in our world. to make sure that we take the time this night when we are vulnerable, wrapped in the cloak of our tradition. And perhaps if you are a talit wearer, you should know that this is the night to wear a talit. It's the only night of the year that we wear a talit because it is seen as one seamless 25-hour retreat. And in fact, you're probably at home, and if you didn't think to get your talit, it's perfectly okay to get up right now and put it on. Normally, usually, we think of coming somewhere else to retreat. And tonight, we retreat at home, wherever you are. And I invite you to take advantage of these next 25 hours, even though we're a little closer to our kitchens, which makes fasting a little more challenging, even though we are surrounded by the distractions of everyday life, even though we are not in the place that gives us the visual and the emotional cues or seeing the people we often see. But to give yourself this gift of, for the next 25 hours, being connected to what you need in this new year that you still have left unsaid, connect to the prayers that are in your heart, connect to ways in which you will shore up your own sense of hope and resilience. Tonight, Kol Nidre, we humble and gather ourselves to recognize that we are not in control and we are not the biggest thing in the universe. We are only a very small part. We do our part, but it is an act of saying with humility, there are things I have done wrong. There are people I have hurt. There are ways in which I have not been my best self. And it is equally important this year, living under a global pandemic, living under a time that feels like it is just crushing us one day after another, to remember all of the goodness, all of the sweetness, all of the positivity we have put into this world. We bring into this holiday an experience of memory. Carve out a place for yourself where you can go. Different than where you work, different maybe than where you eat, different than where you do the usual, and give yourself the gift of saying, this will be a place where I will do my Yom Kippur work, and I will let Yom Kippur wash over me. Maybe it's moving a device outside, maybe it is moving it to a different place, maybe it is curling up in your comfiest clothes under a warm blanket to say, I am here to protect my heart. As I open it up, I spill everything that needs to be spilled, and then I wrap it in love. Tonight, we begin our services remembering. Many of us come to this Yom Kippur holding in our hearts the people who used to be with us. Tomorrow evening at Yizkor, we will remember all of those we have lost in this past year, and all of those who are still living on in our memories, all of those with whom we had wonderful and beautiful and deeply challenging and painful relationships with. We light a yahrzeit candle to begin, and then we light our Yom Tov candles. We begin with a candle of memory, and we continue with these candles of hope. Candle lighting can be found on page 688. We light the yahrzeit candle. And to light our Yom Tov candles, a symbol of hope and newness in this year, we invite Kim and Ethan Moldovsky and Brad, who is also with them, but also our Zoom producer this evening.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של יום הכיפורים
Amen. This Yom Kippur, led by the light of memory and the light of hope and compassion, we come into this new year recognizing that there are ways in which we have fulfilled our heart's desires and there are ways in which we have missed the mark. This is an opportunity for us to recognize that even though it is extremely difficult to live in the world right now, the most important thing we can do is to nourish and nurture our own soul. We can give it warmth, we can give it love, we can give it compassion, we can give it a little nudge, because sometimes our souls really need that. It is an opportunity to stand and say, by the power, by the witness of all of our traditions, these are the ideals that I'd like to live by. These are the ways that I know to have hope in my heart. These are the ways I know I have done wrong, and this is a space that will hold me as I move through this together. To read a poem by Merle Feld, we invite JRC member June Lapidus to share with us. We're going to unmute June.
I am grateful for this, a moment of truth, grateful to stand before you in judgment. You know me as a liar, and I am flooded with relief to have my darkest self expressed at last. Every day I break my vows to be the dutiful child, selfless parent, caring friend, responsible citizen of the world. No one sees, no one knows how often I take the easy way, how often I let myself off the hook, how often I give myself the benefit of the doubt every day, every day. On this day, this one day, I stand before you naked, without disguise, without embellishment, shivering, ridiculous. I implore you, let me try again.
Let me try again. By the authority of all who congregate above and all who congregate on earth, and with permission of the Omnipresent One, by consent of this holy assembly, we come into our midst with all who seek to pray, righteous and unrighteous, all pray together as one community. The act of Kol Nidre, the act of chanting this ancient plea, 3 times we chant it, imagining that we are standing and we are convening a religious court. Our Beit Din this evening, witnessed by our Torah scroll, and we think about all of our presidents and past presidents of JRC who have walked in our midst before and have led us. Today, we think about all of the ways in which we have been leaders and all of the ways in which we look to our Jewish values in helping us to make decisions. Kol Nidre says, I vow all of these for the year to come, but if, for some reason, it is not possible for me to fulfill them, I am human. Do not hold it against me. We will try again and again and again, hearing these words of Kol Nidre, which can be found in your Machzor on page 694. This Machzor, which is a guide for all of us. If you'd like to stay on the same page with us and follow the translations, the transliterations, or the Hebrew, please do. But it is a wealth, it is a treasure trove of commentary and meditations and poems and readings. And so if your heart finds somewhere else and it piques your interest or catches your eye, feel free to wander. This is your opportunity to let these words speak to you in whatever way you need to hear them. It is traditional to stand for Kol Nidre. If where you are right now is a place, I invite you to stand. If sitting is the way that you need to stay right now, I invite you to rise in spirit. As first, we hear Kol Nidre played for us by Kai Wolfman on cello, then chanted by Cantor Howard Friedland, and finally chanted by our JRC choir. Page 694.
בשבעה של מעלה ובשבעה של מטה על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים. Nidre Vesare Ushvohe Vekoname Vechinoye Vechinose Ushavot Ninar Nahud Ishtevan Audacharimena Veni Asarna Alena Shatana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Abba Aleinu Litova Kol Hon Yicharat Navehon Kol Hon Hon Sharon Shevitin Betelinu Votalin Lasheririn Velakayamin Nidrana la nidre Ve'esarana la esare Ushvoatana la shvot V'nislach לכל עדות בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל העם בשגגה סלח נא לעוון העם הזה, כי גודל חסדך, וכאשר נסעת לעם הזה, ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדברך, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדברך, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדברך, סלחתי כדברך. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Grant forgiveness then for the transgressions of this people, as the abundance of your love demands. As you have always lifted from disfavor these your people from the time of Egypt until now, as is told, the fount of mercy says, I grant forgiveness as you ask. Blessed are you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and has brought us to this moment. Amen. Every year, as part of our JRC community, I invite you to be seated. I can't tell whether you're still standing or not, so I'm assuming that you're seated, but please be seated in case you haven't already. Every year, as part of our JRC tradition, we combine words of the liturgy, music from various members in our choir and our musicians, with poetry from those who speak to our hearts, and with the voices of our members. And so it is my honor for our Kol Nidre personal reflection to welcome our longtime JRC member, Nina Raskin, to share with us her words, her Torah, on this Kol Nidre evening. Nina.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
So I have a personal reflection, and I also have a poem. And so I think I might read my poem first, because it was actually a lamentation. This is it. Blue mood, no poem tonight. The well is dry, and the good eye that views the world, the clouds, the tender leaves, the newborn bud, the pan-fried egg, the piece of toast, is crusted with fatigue from rage and grief and hate and thoughts of death. But blackbird sails across the patch of blue and white from which I see my sheltered view in morning's light. And Bach's invention unplugs my ears. I hear my rabbi on the iPhone. A neighbor leaves the paper at the door. The stories grim and bold and loving. I can read and I can write, and waters cleanse the crusted eye, revive the drooping vine and bud, and still the silent scream inside this head. Return, return to Teshuva, to the land of life. Fill the well with tears of repentance and illuminate it with a beam of golden light. And I wrote that during the time of lamentation in June. And this is my reflection for loosening the bindings in the time of COVID-19. During these past 7 months, for me, keeping out companionship and physical contact and holding in and intensifying fear and despair of all that was troubling our world. Pandemic, climate change, violent eruptions of hatred toward immigrants, people of color, undocumented workers, people seeking asylum, and the dismantling of American democracy and norms of behavior. So constricted in my apartment, I opened the door to freedom, my balcony. There, I looked out of my third-floor apartment onto an ordinary view, facing north, the wrought iron railing, the roof of the building's first-floor garage, the alley beyond, the backyards of the homes across the alley, the trees, the clouds, the sky. And as I would sit there, this square of life became my opening into freedom, my loosening of these bindings, and I entered a world of life, beauty, and human and animal activity. I heard the sounds of birds, cicadas, children's voices, someone practicing the piano, lawnmowers, sirens, airplanes, bees pollinating the coleus plants hanging from my railing, my neighbors' FaceTime conversations with their family members, a young mother crying because her child was so unhappy, the sound of the wind crackling the leaves of the full-blown trees. One day as I sat, I saw a plume of white smoke in the blue sky. At first I thought it was skywriting, but there was no plane. And as I watched it, I realized that it was a shooting star, a meteor, a broken piece of the universe that bloomed in the sky and then disappeared, burning up in the Earth's atmosphere before my very eyes. And death came to my balcony. A few weeks ago, after a violent windstorm, I went out to sit on the balcony late in the day. I thought I saw a dried leaf on the floor. but it was a dead bird lying on its side, its soft little body indented, its delicate legs and feet behind it, its markings clear, a tan head, black beak, white breast with black dots, its wings a dark gray merging with inky black tips, a sparrow already injured, falling from the sky onto my balcony. There it lay, but I couldn't throw it into the garbage, not in this time of gargantuan loss. Now is the time for tender interment, and so I wrapped the little corpse in soft coleus leaves that were turning yellow and went into the alley with a spade, loosening some soil and plant debris, and interred this victim of a great wind into our earth, our hallowed ground. So this Kol Nidre, what new vows will I embrace? How will my square of life, which contains the whole cosmos, prepare me for the year ahead? And I dedicate this piece to my two daughters, my oldest, who named the view from her bedroom window when she was 8 years old, her square of life, and my youngest for entering my square of life.
Thank you, Nina. I'm giving you a hug from across these miles, as is such our custom. I miss, as we come up and down off the bima, being able to have that physical connection. As tonight we're looking, as you've said, into our squares of life, into the places where we have more insight into the outside world and more insight inside into us. For a window goes two ways. Tonight we have come to acknowledge that we do not have all control. We are given this task of letting go of pretense, letting go of fear, letting go of the last threads of the last year that are holding us back so we can be released fully and full-hearted into the new year. We come and declare that like an Allah nidaf, like a wind-blown leaf, that we are seeing so much of these days as the winds are changing and blowing, that we too have the capacity to be blown and return again. Tonight, as we enter into this section of slichot, of offering forgiveness, of asking and pleading for forgiveness, we spend a lot of time on our feet. We spend a lot of time standing up before the one. And so I invite you, as your body feels comfortable, to rise physically or in spirit as we sing some of these words, to say, we have wronged, we seek atonement, and that we will please return. On page 782, may our prayers rise like this evening hour. Cantor Howard.
Yale ale tachanunenu me'egev v'yavo shavatenu mi boker v'yegah rinunenu v'yegah Adarev Yahale kolenu me'erev v'yavo tzidkatenu miboker v'yira'eh fidyonenu adarev Ya'ale Inoyenu me'erev v'yavo slichatenu miboker v'yira'eh nakatenu v'yira'eh nakatenu Adarev יעלה את כותנו מערב, ויבוא אליך מבוקר, ויגאלנו הדורב.
May our searching rise at evening hour, and may our plea for pardon come at dawn, and may our sigh reach you through the day. May refuge rise at evening hour, and may it come for your sake with the dawn, and may atonement reach us through this day. May our memory rise at evening hour, and may confession come forth like the dawn. May our glory reign throughout the day. May our weeping rise at evening hour, and may it come forth with the dawn, and may you find favor in it through this day. We plead the Shlosh Esrei Midot, these 13 attributes of the Holy One, recognizing that the body to which we approach, the body from which we are seeking atonement, is a force of compassion and goodness and forgiveness, and is not new for us, but has been with us and our people for the thousandth upon thousandth generations. It echoes long back, and it rings in our ears now. And it will be chanted for us 3 times. First, Cantor Howard is our voice. Second, Ben and Diane Melnick will be our voice. And third, Rebecca Lapat will sing out for us. Page 812.
Adonai, Adonai, רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים, ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע, וחטא ונקה.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed L'Alafim, Nosei Avon V'Pesha, V'Chata V'Nakeh.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed L'Alafim, Nosei Avon V'Pesha, V'Chata V'Nakeh.
We pray, Adonai, Adonai, loving and gracious, patient, abundant in kindness and truth and so many voices, keeping kindness for 1,000 ages, forgiving sin and rebellion and transgression and making us pure. We sing in one voice, hear our voice, Shema Kolenu, for we have things to confess. We are making ourselves vulnerable tonight, and we need to be treated with compassion. We need to be received into your loving arms, to be forgiven for the transgressions and the wrongs, because we have committed transgressions and wrongs. There are things we cannot control, for the things by accident, for the things that are willful, the things that we have done for which we are not proud. Tonight we pour out our voices, Shema Kolenu, hear our one voice together. The high holidays, and particularly Yom Kippur, is a holiday of the plural. We sing in one voice, hear our voice. Sing to us, for we need to be heard, and listen and hear us, all of us together. For you are our God, and we are your people. Ours is a mutual connection, and we strengthen it tonight. page 814. Our choir sings these words, "Hear Our Voice," followed by Cantor Howard on page 816.
Shema, Shema, Shema Koleinu. Shema Koleinu. Shema Koleinu. Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Koleinu. Shema Koleinu. Shema Koleinu. Who's Varachem Aleinu? Who's Varachem Aleinu? Who's Varachem Aleinu?
Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imosenu, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kapel lanu, ki אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו. אנו עמך ואתה אבינו. אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו. אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו. אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו. אנו צאנך ואתה רוענו. אנו כרמך ואתה נוטרנו. אנו פרנסך ואתה יוצרנו. אנו רייסך ואתה דודנו. אנו סגולסך ואתה קרובנו. אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו. אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו.
In this relationship that is mutual, you are our creator and we are your people. You are the one who planted us and we are the fruits of your labor. Tonight, as we prepare that over and over again, we will confess our wrongdoings. We remind ourselves to breathe. We remind ourselves that this work is hard and that our hearts are tender. Alicia Jo Rabins, a Reconstructionist poet living in Portland, Oregon, began writing bathtub pandemic poems back in March when we started this experience of quarantine. And to read for us her poem, Teach Me to Breathe, we invite Stephanie Stallard.
On breathing. I'm okay during the day, but at night I get scared, which makes it hard to breathe, which is a symptom of the pandemic, which is what scares me. Well played, anxiety, my old friend. You've always warned me something like this might happen. You're a gift from my ancestors who survived plagues, and worse. They wove you into my DNA to warn me, so that I too might survive. Now that it's happening, anxiety, I don't need you anymore. I need the ones who gave you to me. Hear me, ancestors, who lived through danger times. I'm ready for you now. All these years, I've carried your worries in my bones. Now, I need your love, your 1,000-year view. Tell me it's going to be okay. Remind me you made it through, and we will too. Teach me to breathe.
We have made it through, and we will make it through in this moment. When all feels overwhelming, the rabbis would say, we need an acrostic, we need a device, a mnemonic to say, how do we make sure that we can remember all of the things that there are to remember? Because if your days or your experiences are anything like mine, I can't hold on to more than 2 or 3 things in any given moment, let alone remember all of the things that I'm supposed to confess. And so we use the tool our ancestors wrote for us of an acrostic. One for every letter of the alphabet, a cataloging of wrongdoings. It seems a little morose that we would say, well, we should say all of the sins from A to Z, whether or not we've committed them, and we might think to ourselves, well, I haven't done that one. And it doesn't matter. Because when we confess in the plural. We say we have done this because we know that collectively all of us are responsible for one another. We use the tool to count from beginning to end. We know that even though, as it is said, few are guilty, all are responsible, that tonight we take responsibility. Tonight we stand up and we say we as a community have transgressed. So let's lay it all out on the table. Let's take away the screen and take away the pretense and be real. From A to Z. First, all of the prayers, all of the confessions, all of the wrongs we have done, and we knock on our hearts, we massage our hearts, we tap and say, open and break a little bit with all the things we've done wrong. And as Leonard Cohen certainly wrote, when things are broke and cracked wide open, that's how the light gets in. So we invite you to be vulnerable wherever you are, to take a moment to go inside as we sing on page 818, may our prayer come before you. For indeed, we have committed these wrongdoings. We are righteous, but we have missed the mark. Ashamnu, we, one after the other, page 818.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ואל תתעלם מתחינתנו, שאין אנחנו עזבנים וקשי עורף, לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו.
We rise.
Ay, 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 אשמנו, בגדנו, גזלנו, דיברנו דופי. Ay, 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 הבינו והרשנו, זדנו, חמסנו, טפלנו שקר. Ay, 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 יעצנו רע, כי זהבנו, לחצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, צררנו, קישינו עורף. Ay, 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 רשענו, שחטנו, תיעבנו, טעינו, תטענו. Ay, 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 ay.
We confess, we sing, these and so many more have we done before you. We use the phrase for the wrong we have done before you, recognizing that the wrongs that we do not only harm ourselves or harm directly another person, but they create a kind of society that we do not wish to live in. They create the communities that are broken, and it is our sacred responsibility to heal. On page 828, we will chant some of these traditional statements, al chet, for the wrongs we have done before you. We'll chant some of them in Hebrew. We will continue and chant some of them in English. And then we will chant some of the wrongdoings, some of the sins that we ourselves confessed on Slichot. JRC members wrote down anonymously the things that we have to confess. They are specific and they are personal, and we did it in a Google form this year. And so we have that compilation that we also share to bring into voice to let us know Not only does this container hold all of us for the things that we have done wrong, but likely we are not alone in being the only one who has done it. Page 828, we rise or continue to stand for Al Chet.
נעל חטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בבלי דעת, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגלוי ובסתר, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בדעת ובמרמה, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בהרהור הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בבדעת זנות, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בזדון ובשגגה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחוזק יד, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בטיפשות פה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
Page 831, I invite you to sing with me. For the wrong we have done before you by our quickness to oppose, for the wrong we have done before you by deception of a friend, for the wrong we have done before you by unwillingness to change, and for the wrong we have done before you by our running to embrace an evil act, for the wrong we have done before you by our groundless hatred, and for the wrong we have done before you in the giving of false pledge. Ve'al kulam Eloah slichot, selach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. From JRC Voices, for the wrong we have done before you in being complicit in supporting white supremacy culture and failing to see our own white privilege. We have been isolated and limited and put our head in the sand. We have consumed too much via online shopping. We have driven places where we could have biked. We have expected perfection. We have exploited racism and xenophobia to retain and maintain power. We have fallen away from communicating with people we love. We have not spoken up when non-Jews have said or done harmful things to or about Jews. We have had unrealistic, inappropriate expectations of people. We have not always composted. We have not challenged enough Israel's treatments of Palestinians and Israeli Arabs. We have not continued our work to show that Black Lives Matter. We have not gotten enough sleep. We have not given ourselves time to cry. We have used money without forethought. We have self-hated around body size and weight. We have taken access to electricity, instant hot water, heat and air conditioning for granted. We have used too much plastic. We have worked too much and given in to despair. We have abused drugs and alcohol to soothe. We have spent more time looking at a screen than we did looking at our children. We have stolen from others. We have been short-tempered with the JRC office staff. We have been afraid of trying. Ve'al kulam Eloah slichot, selach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. It is important that we share the ways in which we have missed the mark, but this year especially, It is vital that we remind ourselves of the goodness, because there is so much wrong, and there is so much hurt, and there is so much harm that if we do not remind ourselves, we can get swept up into a place of despair. And so this version of Ashamnu is also an acrostic. It begins with the Aleph of Ahavnu and ends with the Taf of Tikanu, that says from A to Z, we have done so much good in this world. It is not to say that that outweighs the wrongs. It is not even to say that it balances the wrongs, but it is to remind ourselves with compassion, we have done a lot. It reminds us that in some ways, maybe we have not done as much that we could do that is good, and this is something to strive for. So I invite you to stand where you are and to read aloud, to say these words aloud, this confession of Hakarat Hatov, this confession of good. And I invite you to sing it out, to say out the words. We have loved, we have blessed, we have grown, we have spoken positively, we have raised up, we have shown compassion, we have acted enthusiastically, we have been empathetic, we have cultivated truth, we have given good advice, we have respected, we have learned, we have forgiven, we have comforted, we have been creative, we have stirred, we have been spiritual activists, we have been just, we have longed for Israel, we have been merciful, we have given full effort, we have supported, we have contributed, and we have repaired.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki en banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshenu.
I'm grateful to be able to share some words, I hope of hope, and I recognize with some despair, because that is the world we live in. And so tonight, this sermon, I want to begin by expressing gratitude to my wife, Julia, who sat with me and helped me through and talked and walked me through several versions of what to say, because tonight, it is very hard to know what to say. Tonight, the world is on fire. Our sins are on fire. Our house is on fire. The more we read another verdict, another executive order, another shooting, another nomination, another house is burning, the more likely we are to expect the sirens and the burned out shells, and the less likely we are to get up off the couch with a bucket of water. We are becoming numb. We are watching the days roll into one another as a countdown to the election, a countdown to return to a post-pandemic society, facing a looming winter of indoor isolation and looming tyranny. We are looking on as the world is burning, and we are inside as the boundaries of our lives are blurring into chaos. I read a meme a few months ago that it is not that we're working from home, but we are living at work, for those of us who are working at all. There are no boundaries anymore. In any given hour, I am likely to answer JRC emails, make lunch, log my child into Zoom gym class, change the laundry, like a comment on Facebook, react in convulsing anxiety at the latest crumbling ember of society, and then jot down notes for my Yom Kippur sermon. The line between work and home, connection and distraction is blurry. It's as though we just can't put anything down. It's messy and exhausting and overwhelming. We cannot do it all. I hear this experience, this enormous overwhelm of this moment in many of us, and it shows up in Torah, specifically the words we will read tomorrow morning on Yom Kippur. Leviticus 16 describes how the mountains of sins shall be heaped upon the bulls and the goats for the scapegoat sin offerings, and then cast out into the world. The pile is staggeringly high and endless, and the high priest, representing us all, shall take them to the edges and burn them until their blood and entrails are aflame. This ritual is putrid, bloody and filthy with stench that everything comes near it. The high priest himself, his home, his community is afflicted and polluted. The whole picture is crushing. And today we are the high priest. Today we are living amongst the wildfire of burning wrongs. How can we possibly get rid of the stench? How could we get clean after a fire like this? How can we possibly breathe, let alone wash clean? The reality that we live under the rule of tyrannical manipulation and global viral pandemic, crushing systemic bigotry and lie after lie, with our democracy crumbling, also makes focusing on anything but protecting our democracy and justice feel small and petty. And yet that's exactly what I want to do tonight. Focus on something small, something we can touch and something we can do. A midrash tells that when Moses went to construct the home for God, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, he felt insecure and he said to God, how can I possibly construct this sanctuary knowing that I am only human and I cannot perfect it to the same level that you and the angels could? And God returned and said, I have celestial materials above. You do not need those materials. You do not need my materials. You have your materials down below. And if you build it with the materials you have in your earthly plane, in your home, it will be enough, and I will come and dwell there. There is no angle wide enough to capture the enormity of the fire, no materials big enough to rebuild it all. And Alex Sillitz, I said angle wide enough, and you went to a wide angle. So I am sending you much gratitude for being right here with me. There's no angle that's wide enough, even this beautiful wide angle. No materials build enough to build it all. It doesn't start with the country or the city or the community. It starts in your house. It starts right there where you are and where you have those materials right here, right now. What puts out fire? Water. Where do we find water? In the well. What's our well? Judaism. We are drinking from the well of Judaism tonight. The ritual of a Yom Kippur retreat is to escape everything on the outside, sit within the cocoon of this space and not work and not eat, not read the news, so we can focus on one thing, the restoration of our souls. There is nothing more important. Tonight, it is Kol Nidre, and we are in the mindset to turn to Jewish practice for guidance to deal with the burning world. But it's actually the day after this one that I care more about. The day when community disperses and there aren't inspiring words or music or connections. When it's Tuesday, or next Tuesday, or the week after that. That's the day when we really need a well to renew us on that day and every other, for the bucket keeps coming up dry, or there's a hole in the bucket, or both. Our Jewish well is deep and broad. It contains stories and traditions, blessings and values, actions and beauty and complexity. It's not about searching for a particular substance to put inside it. It's actually about doing something that fills it, otherwise known as ritual. Jewish ritual creates relationships between human beings, the contexts of our times, the expansive container of Judaism, and the languages and lenses through which we see and engage the world. Ritual translates meaning between actual lived experiences and the wellspring of support and creativity of Judaism. This is the moment to make the implicit explicit, to mark transitional moments from one state of being to another, so that we can create those boundaries once again, so that our Judaism grows and moves with us as a source of comfort and inspiration and transformation and maybe even joy. Like the Havdalah ritual that will end Yom Kippur, we use our senses. We see candles and reflection, or the way the sun looks on our bedroom wall. We taste the wine, or maybe ice cream after dinner. We smell and breathe in the spices, or the way our clean hair smells when it's fresh. We touch the drips of candle wax, or the way the garden dirt feels underneath our fingernails. We hear singing, or we hear the sizzle, or we hear the doorbell when the mail comes. We use the tangible to mark change. We focus and pay attention. Ritual can be smashing a glass or baking an apple cake or putting on a kippah. Ritual can be saying 100 blessings every day as the Talmud teaches. Bless the wiping of the schmutz out of our eyes when we open them. Hama'avir sheina me'enai udnuma me'afapai. Holding hands or blessing before we eat. Ritual is a conscious exhale when changing out of work clothes and into comfy pants. A regular movie night, a morning walk to the lake to see the sunrise. Rituals organize our lives and mark the passing of time and give us predictability. They make it easier to realize the fact that in fact today it's Yom Kippur and not March the 187th. I love ritual. I also need it, like many of you, and I'm searching to fill my own well. In fact, as I sat down over and over again to talk about personal ritual practice, I got stuck because I too am struggling to move from one state of being to the next. But we have to. We need to pause the constant swirl of feelings and gain perspective and acknowledge what hurts and what doesn't. So this blurred and boundaryless time and existence doesn't feel like a toxic, anxiety-filled, lonely mess. A ritual is small. It's a crumb or a moment. I make coffee in the morning, and the feeling when I take a sip, feeling its warmth and its aroma, rich and smooth, I feel it moving through my body and helping me wake up and feel the difference in temperature as it barely burns my tongue. Blessed are you who creates goodness, taste, and the openings for nourishment. Ritual is making a habit of letting someone merge into the lane in front of you, because Judaism is about connecting to humanity, waving to the person who lets you in. Blessed are you who commands us to love our fellow human being as we love ourselves. It's seeing a friend walk by as you're sitting on your steps and saying, Mechayeh hametim, blessed is the one who re-enlivens us. Stopping what we are doing because it is more important to connect than it is to rush. When I'm feeling antsy, I take a walk to the lake, noticing how smooth or it's choppy, the color reflected in the sky, and it makes me notice the season and the air and where I am in this moment. It stops the reeling. It orients. Blessed is the one who makes the wind blow and the dew fall, Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem, who stretches forth the earth upon our waters. Take off the headphones and wrap the cords so they don't tangle. Stretch your arms and legs so they don't tangle. Baruch atah matir asurim, who frees the bound. Wash your hands al netilat yadayim, so they can put down the work and pick up a fork. Hold hands around the dinner table to acknowledge that the people who are here are more important than the device in our pocket. Blessed are the connections that bring forth bread from the earth. Sing the same song at bedtime, Shiru Ladonai, and maybe they are the bedtime songs that were once sung to us. For pattern and repetition communicate to our soul that the song we sing, even if it's off key, means it's nighttime. Blessed are you, Hama'ariv Aravim, who makes the evening fall. The Reconstructionist website, ritualwell.org, has created a project called Harvesting Resilience, daily 5-minute practices or teachings that you receive via text message or email for the 30 days that are leading up to the election. I just joined. It looks fantastic, and I invite you to do this with me. Ritual Well, Harvesting Resilience, and we'll say more about that tomorrow. How will you mark time using Judaism in your home every day, where you work and play and parent and take action and sleep, and turn it into a space that is also nourishing for you too? Will you make it a point to put photos of those whom you love in places where you can see them as your minion? How might you focus on one sacred moment every day and put Jewish language to it? Hebrew, English, Yiddish, Ladino, or silence, so that Judaism becomes a tool you have with you all the time, because it's there. I am grateful for the pajamas that I'm putting on right now, for I am in need of comfort. Blessed are you who clothes the naked. Bench Gomel, say words of gratitude when we survive something terrifying or we recover from illness. Say it aloud. Expressing gratitude is the Jewish value of noticing. It's the value of perspective, not only on Shabbat. Yehudim, the Hebrew word for Jews, is bound with the root lehodot, which means to be grateful. It's who we are. And so you may think it's strange in the middle of a pandemic, fascism, racism, and broad injustice to talk about the ritual of enjoying your morning coffee and how to be more religious. We are the first to say that thoughts and prayers are not enough when politicians spew that line. But this is about filling our own wells, not somebody else's, so that we can keep putting out the fire in action. This is about connecting the moments in our lives with Judaism, so that Judaism scaffolds us when we work and march and vote and resist. We don't do these rituals because they're old and your ancestors believed that you should be Jewish and go to shul. We do these rituals because they use our own Judaism to speak to where our guts and our hearts are right now. And we need something meaningful to speak to our guts and our hearts. Our Judaism is about how we live our values, not merely believe in them, but how we live them. And there is nothing too small, crumb-like, or granular about that. And then, when we mark the passage from morning into dinner time, from work into home, from striving into rest, then we begin to rebuild the cartilage between our aching joints that has worn thin and arthritic. We feed our soul, our life breath, in our Jewish language, Kol Nidre Tehallel, hallelujah. And then we can create a bit more softness, a bit more space, a bit more compassion in how we move through the world. Compassion, not with everyone else, but with ourselves. And then the language of blessing and ritual, and yes, even prayers, become Jewish guides that keep us company when we are in need. They fill the well with enough water to extinguish some of the despair. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be leading a discussion group at 1:30 p.m. to talk about the specifics. Where can you make a space for Judaism to be something you lean on every day? Might you make a place in your home where you neither go to create nor to work, but to nourish? What might you say when you log into your workday, or when you put food in your mouth, or when you make a donation to an organization that you care about? What blessing might you give? What do you need right now to make it through? Self-care, activism, exhaustion. Tomorrow, we'll build recipes for rituals and take it step by step by step into the practical and the very little things. It's the first step to overcoming the numbness so that we can re-energize to put out the fire. Because the fire continues to burn and we have to fill up the well. Leah Goldberg wrote in Yiddish, then translated into Hebrew by Penina Peli, Lamdeni Elohai. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, unripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my days be like the one before, lest routine set my ways. Tonight, we raise this up, to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to despair, to hope. Teach me a blessing, to take a break, to notice, to make sure our own wells don't burn up dry with all the sins, because our wells are essential and they need filling, for the road to healing is very long. Teach our lips a blessing, our hands a movement, our ears a song, our lungs a breath. Renew our days, and let our days renew us. Amen.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. 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 Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Amcha tasim leolam. V'tov
We create more peace in the world through our actions and through our memories. We take this moment to remember our beloveds, to remember our family members, to remember our friends, to remember in holy community all of those who used to sit next to us at the church, all of those who would sit around our tables and would walk with us when we needed comfort. We recite Mourner's Kaddish. We hold in our hearts the names of those for whom we say Kaddish as we remember them. I invite you to stand as you are able. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 1216. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'galau v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudsha richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. Yom Kippur is considered one long day that began with sunset and our candle lighting and will conclude tomorrow with Ne'ilah and Havdalah. We begin as we are edging our way into darkness, and we will end edging our way into darkness again. To share a few announcements with the things to expect in these coming 24 hours, I invite JRC member Tracy Hultgren.
A young family service geared to children pre-K through second grade with stories and songs will take place tomorrow morning from 9 to 9:30 a.m. The all-community Yom Kippur service will be held from 10 to 11:15 a.m., followed by open mic at 11:30 a.m. The Torah service with prayers for healing will begin at 12:45 p.m. In the afternoon, there will be family-friendly programming, a discussion on this evening's sermon with the rabbi, and member-led discussion groups. Prior to reconvening for the closing service, there will also be contemplative music. Nila, the closing service, will begin at 5:30 p.m. and include the Yizkor Memorial Service. We will conclude with Havdalah, so bring your favorite Havdalah candle outside and be ready for that final shofar blast and a brief Havdalah. Special thanks to our clergy and choir, to Executive Director Mickey Baer, the full High Holiday team, to Brad Moldovsky and Alex Stillett, and their entire technical Gabayim team for preparing and taking this amazing journey with us.
Thank you, Tracy. This is our opportunity to carve out some time for us, to go to gallery view and see all your faces. I'm doing that right now. To see all of your faces and to see everybody who's sitting there. I'm waving hello, you can wave back, and then you see everybody's faces together. To know that we're all here on this journey together. This is an opportunity to go deep inside. And whether you spend tomorrow morning listening to singing or prayers, or whether you listen to the holy offering of open mic, and if you've not been with us at JRC before, open mic is our opportunity to do what is called avodat halev, the outpouring of our hearts, and to listen to members pour out their hearts in sharing their experiences and their stories and reflections. You don't want to miss it. Throughout the day, there's a variety of things, and tomorrow morning you'll receive an email that will give you all of the links and all of the very specific descriptions that you need to know in order to spend and dip into this well of JRC with us. And if for you, it is filling your well enough to take a walk outside, to sit quietly, to spend some time with your family members, to have a deep conversation, to write a letter to an old friend, wherever your heart needs to be, this is the day to do it. We'll come back together in the evening, in the sunset, to say we will be ready to go, clean and energized into a new year. Give yourself the gift tonight of not turning your screen back on, turning it off, and giving yourself some time to rest, because this is hard work. It takes a lot out of us. If you are fasting, we invite you to do so in a way that is healthy to you. If fasting is not an option for you, because some of us live with eating disorders or have different physical conditions, it is more important to take care of your soul and your body. Do what you need to do. Perhaps think, what is the blessing you will say before eating that banana on Yom Kippur? It's an opportunity to have some gentleness with yourself, but also to connect it into the traditions of the day. This is not a day to lay on more guilt. However you will spend these next remaining hours, in community, in solitude, maybe hopefully a little bit of both, We hope that it represents a vision of the house we want to dwell in together, a house of the divine that is made up of as many of the 400 screens that are here, with just as many windows for seeing in and seeing out. A home that is full of compassion and love. A home that fills each other's wells so that when one of them is dry, somebody else can come and put a little bit more in. A home that is committed to filling the wells, gathering the water, and putting out the fires together. One thing I ask, one thing, says the psalm of this season, to dwell in the house of the eternal, to live in this kind of sacred visioned home of all of us all together, kol yamei chayai, all of the days of my life, to sit and behold and be able to drink in its beauty and its pleasantness, and to bask and relax, for we have created the world that we want to see. Cantor Howard leads us on page 218 in Psalm 27. Achat sha'alti kol yamei chayai. One thing I ask all the days of my life. And then we'll leave this space together and see each other in the morning.
Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai, לחזות בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו, לחזות בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי